Welcome to the Brothers Born podcast. This is the youngest brother, Steven. Breaking away from the routine style today. I only got one of my brothers with me today. Which one is it? Let's see.
It's the best one. It's the
best one. Who's the best one?
Does anyone really need to? Do you even need to ask that question? I think everybody who listens to us knows who the best one is.
Yeah, the best one's the one that bounces balls during an audio recording. That's David Bourne, everybody.
That was an accident. I'm sorry.
Dave, why don't you start us off? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, tonight we're supposed to record an episode, the three of us, but one of us, the lesser of the three brothers, obviously, decided he had to go work, like he has to make a living for him and his family or something, like he has to provide food for them or something like that. So he's not here yet. It's just David and Steven, and we're here to give you a special episode.
Ooh, special.
Break from the norm. Now, I really am kind of disappointed because I'm ready to keep going with these throwdowns. Tonight's was going to be a good one, but we're just going to take a quick step away and see what kind of shenanigans Steven and I can come up with.
Yes. Now, when you listen to this episode, it's possible it might be after the throwdowns, but we're recording it in the middle of our throwdowns. So, I like to think I'm a culmination of both my brothers. I have a lot of Kevin's qualities and I have a lot of David's qualities. For example, Kevin likes anime. I sort of like anime. Kevin's a little bit more of a nerdy video game type. I like video games as well. David is a very artsy musician type, and I got that side of him. I do the music for the podcast. I love playing music and editing music and things. So I got
throw.
Yeah, that's right.
Downs. My jam. That's my jam right there.
It's pretty groovy. I'm pretty proud of that.
Oh, it is. Now, those of you who are listening, the things that Steven just described, we all know that the preferred traits come from my side, and the lesser preferred ones come from Kevin's. I just want you to see the trend here, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And then I put my own little style on it too. Not just a combination of Kevin and David. I'm my own man too. But, I thought being that Kevin isn't here and David and I share a lot of interest in music, we'd kind of take a journey into our past and kind of go forward and see how our musical tastes have changed.
Believing. That song's by Journey.
Oh, yes, that's right. I don't like it.
The feeling, yeah. Oh, neither do I. I was just saying.
In fact, most of that era of music is not really my jam. There are a couple of good ones, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of go back in time. We're going to do it in a series. Let's start off 30 years ago. What was on your iPod? Wait a minute. What was on your Walkman?
Oh, I had one of those Walkman. I had a Discman. It was like a Walkman, but with CDs that play. And you could put it into your tape deck in the car and then plug part of it into the cigarette lighter. And somehow it played what was on your CD. I'm still not exactly sure how that worked.
Magic.
But yeah, I had that. And so I did have before then when I was like real little, I did have a Walkman. And I had my very first tape ever when I was in kindergarten, which I still have on my list today, was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Mom and Dad bought for me for my 6th birthday when I was in kindergarten. I got a little tape deck with the Michael Jackson tape where he's hitting that lean on the cover, the Thriller tape. So that was my very first musical adventure.
Well, you do have a bachelor's degree in music.
I do have a degree in music, yeah, and I teach it for a living as well. So
30 years ago, what were you jamming?
Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding.
All right, let me see if I can guess this.
Word to your mother.
Vanilla Ice, right, of course.
Yes. That was my main jam 30 years ago, I believe.
Or is it Queen? Isn't that a Queen song?
Oh, well, Vanilla Ice got in big trouble with that actually because he sampled from Queen without getting permission. So he kind of got in trouble about that one. But yeah, it was sampled from a song by Queen and David Bowie called Under Pressure. And Vanilla Ice used it and tried to say that he changed the bass line a little bit. So it didn't really take from them, but it did. But yeah, I was listening to him. Like, this is how it was back in my day. Steven was miniature, running around the house in his little diapers and stuff at this point, but I would take my dad's stereo and I would have to listen to the radio all day long until they played my favorite song. And then I had to press record on the tape deck so I could record that song. Like I would listen for hours and hours and hours till they played the song I wanted. And like if you didn't press the record button at the right time, it didn't really, it didn't really come up the right way, or you get commercials in it. But that's how we used to have to roll in my day. If there was a song we really liked, you couldn't just go on iTunes and say, oh, I want that song, click, or go on YouTube, oh, I'm going to listen to that one. You had to wait for the radio to play it. So I would sit through all the lame jams so I could get to my Vanilla Ice, my MC Hammer,
That's awesome.
Young MC, and the like. So that was probably about 30 years ago.
So,
Most of those things have fallen off of my playlist in today's present world. Although I do still have You Can't Touch This and Ice Ice Baby in my phone somewhere.
Classic. Kids these days don't know the struggle of having to record things. I don't really understand that, honestly.
No,
I mean,
and if your cassette tape broke, or like if it got eaten by the tape deck, right after you finally got your favorite jam recorded, it was like, I don't know, it just was like the worst moment.
The crisis.
Ever. Yes. You kids don't understand. So 30 years ago, that's kind of what I was listening to. But I'm not going to say that I had good taste in music back then, because that was quite a while ago. At the time, I guess I just liked whatever was popular on the radio and whatever my friends were listening to. I did start to get into Boyz II Men around that time when they first came out. And Boyz II Men's pretty legit. They do a lot of cool stuff. One of the original boy bands. So
30 years ago for me looked like, I don't know, Sesame Street.
Brahms Lullaby.
Yes. Good jams. Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward a little bit to a time we can both, relate to. 25 years ago.
When I was kind of in that rap phase for middle school, early high school. And then I discovered alternative rock and grunge rock. And that's kind of where I was at in high school. Pearl Jam, I always like Pearl Jam a little bit better than Nirvana, which Kevin likes Nirvana better, I'm sure. But Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins was one of my favorite bands, which I still like their old stuff a ton. And then, I don't know, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, all of that was like my main part of my playlist, stuff that mom and dad didn't really care for too much. And I was big into marching band, jazz band at this time. So I started getting into jazz a little bit as well, things like that. But I didn't really listen to it a whole lot. It was mostly all about the grunge movement. Yes. And also, while still keeping up a little bit with the rap scene, I did like a good Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg jam every now and then too. The Chronic, that was a good album, but I had to be careful listening to that because
especially when mom was around.
Only edited version. That's all I still listen to because I'm not really down with all the cuss words and stuff. But I would listen to the radio versions of those. And I'm digressing here, but I have a story about that. When I was seventh grade, maybe, I don't know, sixth, seventh grade, I bought the Vanilla Ice tape. It was called To the Extreme. And I bought it without really telling mom too much about it. And she heard me jamming to it once in my room. I don't even remember what the song was, because if you listen to the tape now, there's really not anything that bad on it. But she heard it. She opened the door. She's like, "You're putting that back in the case. We're taking it back right now." So she drove me to Kmart. Yes, it was Kmart that I bought it from, not Walmart even, Kmart. And she made me go up to the person at the register and tell him I had to return it because it had inappropriate lyrics, and I bought it without getting mom and dad's permission. Kind of embarrassing moment.
Oh, but, my goodness. In my head, it's so easy. Mom never did anything like that to me.
I know. Well, I was the first, man. I was the first. And then, so that I still remember that moment. I couldn't keep the tape because she made me go return it.
Oh, man. I didn't know mom was so ruthless.
Oh, man. It was embarrassing, dude.
Oh my goodness.
If I remember right, she like stood by me when I told the guy why I had to bring it back. Probably it wasn't as big of a deal as I'm remembering it in my mind, because at the time I was pretty embarrassed about it. I don't even remember that many of the songs from it, except for, the main one. I remember there being a couple bad words and drug references maybe, but it wasn't anything like some of the rap you hear today, obviously. 25 years ago is kind of like the sweet spot for me when I feel like I started getting into halfway decent music. A lot of bands came out towards the end, right when I was going to college or towards the end of my high school, like Weezer's another one I listened to, which still their first album is the best. But like bands like that are still kind of around a little bit. I did like being a saxophone player. I was a huge Dave Matthews Band fan.
Oh yeah.
And then I also got into Counting Crows quite a bit.
Mr. Jones and
Yeah,
me.
it's a good tune, man. Go ahead and make fun of me, but it's a good
No,
tune.
it's a good song.
That whole album is good too. But they're another group that like their first album I feel like was really good, and then they kind of, not as good as they went on. What about you? 25 years ago?
Let's see.
That's kind of when you were like listening to stuff that Steven or Kevin and I sort of.
Yeah, I remember. I think you and Kevin, back before, this was long before YouTube, clearly, but I think you guys filmed each other doing a music like review show once, and you both had long grunge hair, and you had your like flannel shirts on, and I wasn't part of the video.
We're like, which song is going to be rocks out the most? You play one, then I'll play one, and we decided which one.
Right. We should try and find those videos. That'd be so fun.
I'm trying to remember which ones won. I don't know. We threw a bunch of them in there. I'd like to see those videos too.
I didn't really like know the music, but because you and Kevin listened to it so much, I got exposed to a lot of those bands that I ended up liking later in life, like Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and stuff. And Weezer is still one of my favorite bands today. But yeah, I started getting exposed to the rock scene. I remember Mom also bought me Beatles tapes, so I was in second grade one time.
Kevin loved Beatles back then.
Yeah.
I didn't really come around on the Beatles till I was in college and after. But
so my music teacher in second grade was like, all right, everyone bring in like a tape you like. And some people brought in like Simon and Milo, I think, or Britney Spears or something. I don't remember, but I brought in the Beatles. And I remember my teacher thought that was really cool. I listened to the song Help, and I was like, and she started dancing and stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm the cool kid. I like the Beatles. But
well, that's still, when my kids tell me, like I had this one student last year that listens to Zeppelin, to Hendrix, to the Beatles. I'm like, dude, you're awesome.
That's a cool.
Other people are listening to like Juice WRLD, people like that, which I'm not big on those ones, but we aren't to that time yet. We're still 25 years ago, I guess.
So let's go ahead and move forward. Let's do 20 years. I'll start this one off. 20 years ago, I would have been 12. And I was really big into Weezer still. Jimmy World was a big band for me.
That's a good, I like
The that. Middle was like my super good jam. And then System of a Down. That was like my hard song, my hard music. I loved System of a Down back then.
I got a couple other songs on my playlist now. Aerials and one more.
Wake Up.
No, not that one.
That's my jam right there. It's still my jam. I'll jam that when I'm like want to work out or I'm kind of angry about something. That's usually what I listen to. And although not at this stage in my life, I think Rage Against the Machine was popular around that time. Maybe I
love those guys, man.
But before that, maybe. But
in high school, them too. I love those dudes. After when I was older in high school, I went to that's one concert I did go see, and like I like their sound a lot. They did drop the F-bomb quite a bit, but I thought they had a really cool sound, and I liked some of the things they did, And I knew that they were all about political resistance or political, whatever.
Yeah.
But then I didn't really get that until just a few years ago. But they have, I mean, I got it, but I didn't. I understood it as a teenager.
Yeah.
Rather than
like, this rocks out. This is sweet, man. Headbang.
But I thought, their sound was cool, and I liked them a lot. I still listen to them sometimes.
I heard a marching band cover of one of their songs. I think it was Bulls on Parade. That was super cool.
It was Bulls on Bulls on Parade.
It was awesome.
But Kevin and I used to jam on that to those guys when we were driving through Lorraine because we thought we were all hard. I turned up the volume on Mom's Nissan when we played that with my old Discman that I told you about earlier. And we're like, man, these Lorraine dudes are going to think we're cool if we're turning this up.
So what was yours 20 years ago?
So 20 years ago, at this point, I had my music degree. When I was getting my degree, I lived, breathed, and died music. That's all I did at college. Yeah. And I got into jazz and classical quite a bit. I mean, I always kind of enjoyed it before, but I listened to a lot of Miles Davis, John Coltrane, that kind of stuff. And I tried, because I was playing in jazz bands and that kind of stuff. So that was kind of my main focus. And then a lot of, classical music.
So how did listening to jazz, someone who's like really into, I think of the three of us, you're obviously the one that's most into jazz. How did that change your perspective on the alternative bands you listen to?
Well, just the creative side of it. Jazz is a very creative music where you improvise, you make it up on the spot. It's different every time. It's kind of like you don't really you take a song, you play the melody, you play the verse, whatever, and then you just go into the solo section and you can kind of do what you want, be your own person, do your own thing. It's a very creative music. And not that that other stuff isn't, but it just got me more focused on like the music part of it
Yeah.
as opposed to the angry lyrics or whatever that I liked when I was a teenager. Um, and it just, I don't know, made me look deeper into the actual theory of how they put the music together and why it sounded this way and what the chord progressions were and what would sound good over, what scales, what would sound good over that. Um, so I started listening to it more from like I guess a more deeper level because I could sort
Yeah.
of understand more what was going on in it. Um, so yeah, and I just kind of didn't really listen to the other stuff as much anymore because it
It's
was just
interesting
kind of
because like I mean I haven't listened to that stuff nearly as much as you have, obviously, but the little bit I have listened to, I feel like the depth of emotion they convey without words is pretty unreal, actually. Because I know it's just
I agree.
improvisation, but they can convey something that like you
Well,
only understand through music, and
you
it's
can
really
like
interesting.
it's like you paint a picture with your music. I mean,
Yeah,
like you can see the music if that makes sense. I don't know. You can like I guess you can see all music, but you can see what the person's thinking, like you picture in your mind. I don't know, just different colors, different scenery that you might think of, which I didn't
yeah.
always think of before. And same thing with classical music, like it's not as much improvisation. There is a lot in there. Mozart and Beethoven were actually really good improvisers.
They were rock
Um,
stars in their day, man.
Mozart could take a melody and just hear it and like make it better on the spot without even looking at it. He used to make other composers mad doing that. But so there's a lot of improvisation there. But classical, it's also like very like there's certain chord progressions and then you like the counterpoint, the harmonies. Like a lot of it's actually the rhythms like kind of mathematical even. I don't know, like it's
Yeah.
just so they're two different music, but I had to study both of them quite a bit. So I just kind of I don't know, when I listen to it, um I don't know, I just really thought of how it was put together and I tried to play along with it and things like that. I don't know. Where I didn't really do that as much with in the 25 or 30 years ago time frame.
It's a lot.
So
It's a lot different than your four chord progressions,
right. Well, I
power
kind of lost.
chords.
I was kind of went through a time where I'm like Green Day, three chords. Why? Who cares about that? Like I didn't. I kind of lost. I didn't really like that stuff as much. But it's weird because I came back to it later. But
Yeah, yeah.
at the time, like especially right before my mission or whatever, and right as I was graduating from college, um, I also listened to a lot of soundtracks too. I got really big
Yeah,
into John Williams and
he's amazing.
James Horner, the guy who did the Titanic and a couple other movies. And then Danny Elfman's another good one I got into. So those are kind of like your modern classical musicians, I guess.
Cool.
But
I want to come back to that because I actually when we come to the now stage, I've been listening to a lot of that stuff, but I'll wait until we get there.
okay,
But
sure.
let's go ahead and jump forward a little bit. 15 years ago, for me, it was a lot of Reliant K,
Yes, I remember you used to give me all their stuff.
and I loved them partially because they were from Ohio. All their music is very positive. Or at this time, I actually tried starting a band too with my buddy Matt and Dawson and my
It was
friend
good.
Steve. And we at first we wanted to call ourselves Unreliant J. We thought we were like that was the funniest idea ever, but ended up going with Let's Do It for Kayla. I don't know what that's all about,
I
but
thought you had a friend named Kayla or something.
yeah, there's a story there, but I won't dive
Oh,
into it this
we don't have to do
episode.
that.
But yeah, I started a band at that time. It was like a pop punk band. I listened to a lot of pop punk at that time, and I also listened to something you introduced me to a lot. It was a Nickel Creek with a little bit of the bluegrass scene.
Oh
I was
yeah.
getting into that around that time. Um, so I like to think my music interest was expanding. I did listen to a little bit of jazz. I had this history teacher who put on music before class started, and he had Thelonious Monk on once, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, a lot of his solo stuff. I remember you told
Yeah,
me
yeah,
about that. And you
that was
you
really
guys
cool.
also were into Herbie Hancock Headhunters for a while, I
Yes,
remember.
that actually, that was my first CD ever. Was Herbie Hancock
Oh, I didn't
Headhunters, the
know that.
Watermelon Man. Ooh, ah, ah,
Yes,
ah,
yes.
ooh,
That's a
ah.
good one.
Mostly because of that song, but um,
Yeah. The original version. Have you ever heard the original version of that one?
no, I've not.
It's when he was more in a hard bop band, it wasn't really like that was fusion, the one you've heard, like a lot of electronic stuff. But the
Yeah,
original one of it was more like a more standard jazz combo that he was in. It was pretty cool. Um, but definitely a way different feeling. I'll have to play it for
yeah.
you sometime.
I I want to talk about this awkward time between 20 and 15 years ago where I listened to a lot of Japanese music because of anime. I was like, this is cool. This is awesome stuff right here. I'm so sweet. I love this and
Do you
this, that,
remember
and the
that?
other.
Kevin was into that too.
Yeah, and I still listen to some. There's this band called The Pillows. They're actually really good. They're like the Japanese Weezer, in my opinion. How about 15 years ago for you?
Well, I started that was when I got married. Actually, June will be 15 years ago.
Oh my
And
goodness.
kind of here, I don't really know how to explain what I did. I had pretty much everything on there. Like I started getting more back into the stuff we talked about earlier, the grunge rock, the alternative rock. Um, and then I listened to a lot of stuff that you showed me. I didn't get into the whole anime scene very much, although I thought some of the cowboy bebop music was cool,
It
but
is
I
very
never
cool.
could,
Holds up to this day.
yeah, I never could quite get into that. Maybe it's just because I got tired of you and Kevin trying to, talking about it all the time. But it's okay that you did. But I'm trying to think why I never got into it. I just didn't that much.
Yeah, it's
But I started listening to a lot of different stuff. Um, I was starting to like I still listened to top 40 at that time a little bit, but I was starting to not like it as much.
yeah,
A
sure.
couple groups you got me into, I would say more like 12 years ago, maybe, but like one group I got really big into at this time was Jack's Mannequin.
Oh, great band. Yeah.
I listened to them a ton. And then another one was Death Cab for Cutie. Like I started listening to them a ton. More of like the indie stuff, like not really the
Yeah,
stuff that
sure.
was on the radio.
Yeah.
But I also listened at this time, like I was big into Fall Out Boy, which I still like them a little bit, but not as much as I did.
Yeah.
I liked Jameet World a lot at this time too. Mumford and Sons started coming out a couple years after that. I listened to them a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Matt and Kim. I got into Jose
Cool.
Gonzalez a little bit. I don't know if you know him at all,
A
but
little bit.
he's pretty cool. And
You're
then
jumping
just
into the
just
10
whatever.
years ago territory a little bit.
Yeah, I guess 10 to 15. I did get into Kanye West quite a bit at that time too.
So did Kevin, I
Liked
remember.
yeah, I liked his old stuff, and then I liked the 808 and Heartbreaks album for a while. So I
I
got into him, and I listened to a little bit of Jay-Z and stuff like that. No, I didn't, and
return to the rap
Eminem a little
scene.
bit. Yeah, so kind of a broad whatever overall. I don't know.
I'm moving forward a little bit more. 10 years ago, you kind of dived into that a little bit, but
Yeah,
I
sorry.
I listened to a lot of like, I don't know what this is. What would you call it? John Mayer, Matt Nathanson, OAR.
Like Jason Mraz, that type of stuff.
Yeah, like
Like coffee house pumpkin spice type stuff.
there it is. That's
But
exactly the way I describe it.
and I like some of that stuff. Like I have a few John Mayer songs on my thing. I have a couple Jason Mraz songs. I do like OAR because they have a saxophone player, but I only have a couple of their songs too.
I was in that phase. I think the reason why is because on my mission I had a guitar, and one of my
Yeah.
friends from my mission played that kind of music, so I just kind of got into it a little bit. But
Well,
uh,
no, it's cool when you're playing guitar because it's like the solo singer with the guitar.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you can do a lot. There's a lot of cool things in that genre. I like that.
And
You
then
should get into Bob Dylan though, man. He's the same thing,
oh, I
but
do like
much better. Go ahead.
between 10 and 5 years ago, I actually was in another band with my buddy Dawson. He's been on the show before, called Test Tube Twins. We still have a
Yes,
Facebook
yes.
page. You can
I
listen to our
recorded
music.
with you guys once or
You
twice.
did. There's a song called Every Minute that David plays saxophone on. It's
Uh,
quite the jam.
it is the
So
jam, yes.
you should definitely check it out. So at that time, I was kind of, so this is more recent, 10 to like 5 to 10 years ago. I was into more alternative rock. I like Group Love a lot. I'm not sure if you listen to Group Love. They're really
Yeah, you
cool.
got me into them, but only like
Cage,
their big songs. Like I don't know, I don't
yeah.
have any of their albums or anything.
Cage the Elephant is a big one I like. Um,
They're okay.
and I think they're pretty cool. And I like Kings of Leon was another one. I so like they're still around, but I like some of those bands. And now today I like some of that stuff. I still like Weezer. I kind of have all those things we've mentioned before. I still listen to on occasion, but a lot of times I'm perfectly content listening to like scores. A lot of times when I'm like
Yes.
just hanging out, I listen to video game music and movie soundtracks. And some video game music is actually amazing. There's this composer named Gareth Coker. He did the music for Ori and the Blind Forest video game. Some of the most pretty stuff I've ever heard in my life. So pretty. I think I got into it because in college I used it to study too.
Who's Hans Zimmer, the guy who did
Oh yeah,
Gladiator?
dude.
He has
He's
some
the
good stuff.
man.
Danny Elfman's another cool one. He did Men in Black. He's kind of more modern, but he's
He did a
pretty
lot of
cool.
like the Tim Burton stuff too. Like didn't he do
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
old
I
Batman movie? And
think so. I think so. The
that's
Michael
cool.
Keaton one.
Yeah.
So for me, are you talking like from now to 5 years ago or whatever? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
what
Like the past more recent.
I went full circle. Like I don't know. I'm just always looking for stuff that I can find feeling and meaning to.
Yeah.
So I can't even stand anything on the radio anymore. Like I just can't do it. Once in a while, a good song will come out, but I just can't. And that's unfortunately my wife and my kids love that stuff, but just can't do it. So I still listen to it, but only when I'm in the car with them and they have it on
Yeah.
because I'm not going
So,
to be rude and
which
turn
is
it off.
good because as a teacher, you want to be hip with
Yeah,
what's
I mean, I'm
new.
trying to stay
But
modern too. And sometimes my kids actually, my students, I mean, here actually introduce me to groups that are out now that every once in a while, they're not too bad. Like there's a song called I Don't Want to Know by Goldhouse and Mokita, I think is,
I don't know
and
that
it's
one.
kind of cool. You should look it up. It's a pretty cool song. Like it's chill, like listen to it a lot. One of my students showed me that one. And there's actually a country song that came out recently. Oh, I can't remember what it's called, but
Is
it's
it Bro
um,
Country? Please tell me it's not any of the
no,
Bro
it's called Be
Country.
a Light. It's called Be a Light, and it has all these different country artists on it. But it's talking about how you should be a good influence in the world, whatever. And I
Okay.
was surprised one of my students showed that to me because most of the time they want to hear all this other crap. But usually I can't do top 40. Um, Not really at all. Like once in a while, something might catch my ear for a minute,
Yeah.
but I can't do it. So now I'm kind of like I really have been into classical music a lot the past few years because I mean, I feel like it's because I teach it a lot. But I
Yeah.
just some of these old composers just amaze me so much. Like um, Beethoven, obviously, but he was deaf and he could compose a whole symphony and know how every part fits together. Like and never even hear it, but it sounds perfect. Like he never even got to hear it because his Ninth Symphony he was completely deaf by the time it was done. So stuff like that just is crazy to me. And I
Super
like
interesting.
that. And then I don't know, I just really am into classical music. You go back even like the Baroque period, Bach and Handel and all those guys. Some of the stuff they could do is just pretty cool to me.
I
But
think
on
you
the
said
other hand,
Baroque. Did you say Baroque period?
yeah,
I
Baroque
thought you
period.
said Bro period. I'm like, I
Oh
guess
no,
that's pretty cool.
maybe that's the
Wait.
old word for bro. But no, it's just I love studying that stuff, and I'm really interested in like the historical aspect, how these guys lived and the changes
Yeah.
in society, how it reflected in the music and all that, especially when you get into like the romantic impressionist period, how it went right along with what was going on in the art world and the architecture world, all that stuff.
Well,
So I really am into that a ton, but also like I really music like of our parents' day, like I love listening to Bob Dylan, Led
yeah.
Zeppelin, The Doors, like that kind of stuff, because it's sort of like it's got a lot of jazz influence in it, but also like rock. Like it's
Yeah.
like the musicians knew what they were doing back then.
For
Like
sure.
you could take like the organ player for the Doors playing awesome solos. You got the the Led Zeppelin, the Jimi Hendrix, all these great guitar players, but they actually took like I could tell they know about music. They know, you know, how it's supposed to go instead of just
Yeah.
programming it on a computer. So like I'm kind of like I listen to pretty much everything right now except for like top 40 stuff.
Yeah.
But I still every once in a while I'll still get out the old Nirvana, Pearl Jam, go back to my roots. Um, but I feel like right now my music taste is where it should be.
Good. If you're
Thanks.
happy with it.
Yeah, like I feel like I appreciate what I believe is good music. And even if I hear something that's new on the radio, like I can tell I'm like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. That's pretty cool. You know, like
Yeah.
other than I don't know,
I think a
someone who
good
just
example of that is, although I don't love all of his music, I'm always impressed by Bruno Mars. I think he's a very talented person. Like some of his songs are kind of like whatever, but like that dude can sing, he could dance, and he plays his own instruments, which is a lot to say for compared to some people.
Not a huge fan of him, but
As far as pop stars are concerned, I think he's one of the better ones. But one band you've introduced me to that I've really liked, it's a newer band. I like them because they kind of keep to like the rock and roll roots. Is that band Kaleo? I think they're really
oh
cool.
yeah, I thought you introduced me to them,
Oh,
but
maybe
no,
I
they're
did. I
they're
don't
very
know.
cool.
But I saw them open for the Lumineers when I saw the
I
Lumineers a
love
few
the
years ago.
Lumineers too, but
But like I like them because they're like going back to like, two guitars, bassist, and drums and a singer. And like it's just like I don't know.
hey,
I
you
like
don't
it.
hear that anymore. Like, and I just can't. I don't know. I love real instruments, man. I
Yeah, for
like
sure.
right now. Like right now. I'm a huge fan of like Motown too, and like
Yeah.
some of this old funk, like Earth, Wind, and Fire. Very
Oh
good.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Tower Power. Whatever. I mean, mixing up with the Cedar Point Ride. And I still do have Michael Jackson, the original Thriller album. I have some of those songs in my playlist as well.
Good. So
So,
looking forward, where do you think music's going, David?
um,
Is it good, bad? I mean, it's a lot different now because no one, anyone who wants to make music can basically make music now.
I feel like there's a lot of cool things that can happen. Like there's a lot of potential because people can, put their own people that you wouldn't normally hear from now can just put it on there and you hear kind of what they're doing. But also, like, I feel like it can be watered down as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to find the good stuff because there's so
Right.
much out there now. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But yeah, I don't
But
know. Like, I feel like for me in my life, I just keep going back to the old stuff. Like, I, I don't know. And
yeah, I get
that's
that.
just me. I have weird taste, I guess. But like, I don't think most people that listen to our podcast probably care about Beethoven, but maybe they do. I don't know. Or John Coltrane. But I don't know. I just like to find whatever. I mean, everyone has a different taste. It's not like someone's taste is right or wrong. Um,
Yeah,
just whatever speaks to you. Like I don't like when people say, you like that, that's crap. Although I do, other than modern top 40, which really is kind of crap, most of it. But like you are your own person, you like your own stuff. And
yeah.
who knows, when you listen to something else, you could really start to get into it.
I listened to a lot more of what Dad used to listen, like in the car. Dad would
Oh
put
yeah,
on.
dad's music is jamming.
Yeah, dude, some of it's really good, and he shows me stuff sometimes. I'm like, whoa, this is awesome.
That's the best generation, man. They had the whole Motown and funk scene, but they also had the British invasion and the hard rock scene at the same time.
Yeah,
But they also had
yeah.
like the folk songs like Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, all those guys. Like they had it all, dude.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yeah, CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Like they had everything. Um I don't really get into country music from back then. Like
No, I don't either.
like the old Hank
But
Williams and the old, Hank Williams Jr., I guess. But like that stuff, although Johnny Cash had some cool stuff, but I wasn't a big country. I'm still not a huge country fan, but I'll pull out like I like Brad Paisley. He's got some
yeah,
skills.
Stephanie's family comes from a lot of country
Yeah.
music, and they
Well,
like love that stuff.
the place I teach now, it's weird because a lot of them listen to country. But when I taught in Cleveland, it was all about rap and hip hop, and now it's all about country where I'm at. So I have learned a lot from my students over the years too, but most of it, every once in a while there's something cool they show me. But
Yeah,
usually I'm like, what are you listening to? But again, it's just I bet when our kids grow up, music's gonna be even different again. And you know. But I still don't get why I don't get why at one point I didn't like mom and dad's music because I'm like, it's the best music of all.
I totally get that. Like it's like, oh, dad's playing his
Yeah.
classical music again. Like, but now I'm like, oh, this is cool, man. I like listening to it. But this was fun. I enjoyed talking about this with you. I felt like this was the most intellectual podcast episode we've had.
Yeah, we'll
of
see if
all of
anyone
them.
likes to listen to it. Might have to edit half of it out, but
I
whatever.
feel like we're on NPR right now or something. Well, this is fun. I look for
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get back into our throwdowns soon. It might be that the throwdowns episode comes out before this one, but
We'll see.
thanks for listening to this highbrow episode of the Brothers Born podcast. Podcast. Now it sounds like a workout.
Hey, you know
podcast.
what we should do? We should like put some of our playlists on like just can we post like some of our playlists along with this podcast somewhere?
Yeah.
Whenever we release it. I think that might be
cool.
fun. Like
That'd be fun.
David's Choice, Steven's Gems. I don't know, whatever it is. If you want
That's
to
a good
listen
idea.
to, like, I don't know, it might be fun. We'll see what kind of response we get, but it'll definitely be very different between the three of us. But yeah, also the same. I don't know, because we still have some things that are in common.
What is that one band that unites all three of us, you think?
And that's tough when you add Kevin in, or when you add me in, because like usually, or when you add, like usually two of us can maybe get along with something, but not all
Our
three.
Venn diagram is very. I feel like we all like Weezer, maybe, or we all like Smashing Pumpkins. Probably the '90s scene is probably
Well,
where
Herbie
all three
Hancock
of us kind of blend.
Headhunters.
There it is. There it is, right there.
Oh, Nickel Creek. He likes that. He likes Nickel Creek.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what. One time I went to visit Kevin, and he had a William Shatner album. I'm just gonna end the episode right there. Everyone think about how my brother Kevin has a William Shatner album.
Unless he doesn't have an Eddie Murphy album, that's just.
All right.
Well, you know,
well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Each his own.
That's right. Go out there and change the world with music.
All you listeners, drop your favorite songs on our wall too, or what do you call it? What do you kids call it? Not our wall, but our page. What do you call it?
I don't know, man. I'm the old.
Well, drop some of your tunes on there. We'll check them out. Maybe we could get like a Born Brothers podcast and listeners playlist.
Oh, that'd be sweet. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Cool. Catch you later, everybody.
Yep. Out. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Brothers Born podcast. David and I had a blast talking to you about music and how our tastes have evolved over the years. How has your taste in music changed? And besides us, what are you listening to right now? We'd love to hear about it. Post your most recent playlist on our Facebook page, facebook.com/brothersbornpodcast. Special thanks to those who have shared the show with a friend and those who have left good comments on iTunes. Y'all are the best. All right. The moment you've all been waiting for is going to come in 2 weeks. The Tournament of Champions of the Unlikely Throwdowns. I'm talking Papa Smurf, Boba Fett, Hans Gruber, the Big Man Santa himself, the Xenomorph, and Super Mario. Who will win? In 2 weeks, listen and find out.